I still struggle to understand how something as beautiful and global as the 2026 FIFA World Cup could quietly become the backdrop to the end of my marriage. How bright stadium lights and roaring crowds could exist at the same time, my world was collapsing in complete silence. If you enjoy emotional, true-life stories like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now, let me tell you what happened. When my wife told me she had the chance to travel to Canada and experience the games in person, she looked like someone who had just been handed a childhood dream wrapped in gold ribbon. And I remember feeling genuinely happy for her, because she had always talked about wanting to see the FIFA World Cup live, at least once in her life. She said she wanted to feel the energy of the games, stand in the cold air while watching her country play, to walk through fan zones filled with flags and music, and strangers celebrating together as if they were one family. I helped her compare flights, encouraged her to book the better hotel, and even rearranged my own work schedule so I could drive her to the airport without rushing our goodbye. I took several days off work to stay home and take care of our 2 kids while she was gone for the games, wanting her to enjoy every moment without worrying about responsibilities. Our marriage, at least from where I stood, felt steady and dependable, in the way a house feels safe during a light storm. Because we had been through disagreements before and always found our way back to each other through conversation and compromise. We had been married for 6 years, and while we did not live in a fantasy of constant romance, we shared routines that felt intimate and real, like cooking dinner together on Sundays, watching late-night shows under the same blanket, and texting each other small updates throughout the day that reminded us we were still connected, even when we were apart. When she packed for Canada, she kept holding up outfits and asking me which coat looked better, laughing as she tried to fit everything into her suitcase. I kissed her forehead while telling her she deserved this adventure. The night before she left, we sat on the couch while she leaned against my shoulder, scrolling through event schedules and telling me which players she hoped to see in person. And I remember thinking how lucky I was to be married to someone whose excitement felt so pure. Our kids were also happy seeing her that excited, feeding off her joy without understanding how fragile everything really was. The first few days of her trip unfolded exactly the way I expected they would, filled with enthusiastic messages and photos that showed her smiling in crowded plazas, with World Cup banners hanging overhead. She sent me videos of cheering fans wrapped in their national flags, voice notes describing how electric the atmosphere felt during a match, and pictures of illuminated venues glowing against the sky. Every time my phone buzzed, I felt that quiet reassurance. That distance had not weakened us, because she still reached for me, even while standing on the other side of the world. She would text me things like, "I wish you could see this in person," and "We have to come together next time." And those words felt sincere, not rehearsed or forced. I trusted her completely, because I had never been given a reason not to. And trust, once planted deep enough, becomes something you stop examining, because you assume its roots are unshakable. On the night, everything changed. I was not searching for anything suspicious, nor was I feeling insecure or restless, because my mind was as calm as it had been all week. I had finished dinner with the kids, and was lying in bed absent-mindedly scrolling through Instagram, watching highlight clips from the football games, and reading comments from people arguing about medals and controversial calls. The algorithm kept feeding me World Cup content because I had been engaging with it since she left, and I remember pausing on a reel that showed a fan zone packed with people celebrating after a big win. The camera was shaky, and the music was loud, and I almost swiped past it, until something familiar caught my eye in the corner of the frame. It was a coat I recognized immediately, because I had helped her choose it. A deep navy color with silver buttons that stood out against the sea of bright jackets around her. I froze, leaning closer to my phone as if proximity would change what I was seeing, and then the camera shifted slightly to the left, revealing her face illuminated by flashing lights and laughter. For a split second, I felt relief, because seeing her unexpectedly in a random stranger's video felt like a funny coincidence, something I might even tease her about later. That relief lasted only a heartbeat, before the man beside her pulled her toward him and kissed her. She responded without hesitation, without resistance, without confusion, because she wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him in a way that left no room for interpretation. It was not a fleeting peck, or an accidental brush of lips lost in celebration. It was deliberate and intimate, the kind of kiss that belongs to two people who have already crossed invisible lines long before a camera captures them. The noise of the crowd in the video continued, but inside my bedroom, the silence became unbearable, heavy, and suffocating, as if the air itself had thickened around me. I replayed the reel over and over, hoping that a different angle would reveal a misunderstanding, hoping that maybe the lighting had distorted something, hoping that I had somehow misidentified the woman who shared my bed. Each replay confirmed the same brutal truth, and with every repetition, my stomach twisted tighter until I felt physically sick. The caption of the video tagged the World Cup venue and included laughing emojis, as though this moment were nothing more than spontaneous joy worth sharing with strangers online. What shattered me almost as much as the kiss itself was the casualness of it all, the way she seemed unbothered by being seen, as if the possibility of consequences had never entered her mind. I saved the video on my phone, because I knew I would need proof of what I had seen. I did not give myself time to calm down before calling her, because I knew that if I waited, doubt and denial might start arguing with what I had already witnessed. When she answered, her voice carried the same brightness it had all week, and she began telling me about an event she had just attended, completely unaware that the illusion had already cracked. I interrupted her, my tone steady in a way that surprised even me. "I had seen the video," she asked. "What video?" I sent it to her immediately. The shift on the other end of the line was instant. A silence that stretched long enough for both of us to understand that the truth was no longer avoidable. She tried to explain, saying the atmosphere had been overwhelming, that it was a mistake fueled by excitement and celebration, that it did not mean anything beyond that moment. I listened without raising my voice, because anger felt too small for what I was experiencing. What I felt instead was a hollow numbness, as if someone had removed the foundation beneath my feet and left me suspended in disbelief. I told her that, whatever meaning she attached to it, did not change what I had seen, and that trust, once broken in such a public and humiliating way, could not simply be glued back together with apologies. She began crying, her words tumbling over each other in desperation, but the sound no longer moved me, because the image of that kiss had carved itself into my memory with ruthless clarity. I told her, "Stay there," and finish the trip, because I was done pretending that our marriage was intact. And then I ended the call, before she could continue bargaining with something that no longer existed. That night, instead of sleeping, I walked through our house and saw it differently for the first time, noticing how many shared memories were embedded in ordinary objects, from framed photographs on the wall to the indentation her side of the bed held. I stopped in front of a picture of both of us and the kids, smiling at the camera as if nothing could ever break us, and I felt a wave of grief that was not loud or dramatic, but slow and methodical, like dismantling a structure, brick by brick, while fully aware that you are the one taking it apart. By morning, Clarity had replaced shock, and I began packing my belongings with a focus that felt almost mechanical, understanding that staying would only prolong a pain that had already proven itself unbearable. I told the kids to pack their things because we were leaving this house for a different and bigger one. They were excited when I mentioned how big the new place would be, even joking about whether it would have a swimming pool, and I smiled through the weight in my chest, because they knew nothing about what was really happening. My wife cut her trip short that day and flew home the next morning, perhaps believing that proximity would repair what distance had damaged. When she arrived, she found an empty house and a "for sale" sign planted firmly in the yard. She started calling my phone immediately, and her calls and messages flooded in waves, filled with promises, regret, and declarations of love that arrived too late to undo what had already been exposed. I did not respond, not because I lacked feelings, but because I finally understood that protecting my peace required boundaries stronger than nostalgia. She later contacted my parents, trying to explain herself and saying it was a mistake that would never happen again. She said she wanted to see the kids. My parents tried to talk me out of my decision, saying she did not mean to do that, and I knew that was not entirely true, because they liked her, and she had always been good to them. She began showing up at my workplace, buying me gifts, and doing anything she could to win me back. But my mind was already made up. One day, she came to the house saying she wanted to see the kids, and I let her in, because no matter what happened between us, she was still their mother. She played with them and laughed with them, and the kids were happy in a way that made my heart ache. And for a brief moment, I considered forgiving her, just to preserve that image of happiness. But I reminded myself that forgiveness, without accountability, would only teach them the wrong lesson about love and respect. As she was leaving, she tried to apologize again and attempted to use the kids' happiness to soften me, but I told her it was over and that I would be serving her divorce papers soon. She broke down in tears and walked away, and although it hurt to watch, I knew that reversing my decision would hurt even more in the long run. What hurts most is not the public nature of the video or the embarrassment of strangers witnessing what should have been private, but the realization that the person I trusted most chose a moment of thrill over the commitment we built together. Yet, even in that pain, I have found a strange sense of strength, because surviving something that shatters you also reveals how much you are capable of enduring. The 2026 FIFA World Cup will be remembered by millions for records broken and champions crowned. But for me, it will always mark the chapter where I learned that love without loyalty is fragile, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is step away from the wreckage and choose yourself. So, guys, let me know in the comments section, was my choice justified, or did I rush things and leave?